Welcome to Bonnie Doon, and today we're going to talk about Lawrence O'Donnell and his Trump derangement syndrome. And this guy is particularly hard to cover because he does not take a breath. He just talks in one continuous stream, and it makes it very difficult.
And what did the President of the United States do on this day when some of the particulars of the Russian attacks on our election were revealed in a 37-page indictment by the special prosecutor? Nothing.
The president did nothing because there was nothing to do.
Absolutely nothing. This is the first president of the United States who has had to deal with the aftermath of a direct attack on the United States by Russia.
You act like the Soviet Union dropped missiles into the United States and blew up major cities. It was not an attack. It was just a media blitz trying to screw with us and pit us against each other, which you fell for 100%.
And because Donald Trump is the weakest president in history,
You make ad hominem attacks one after the other.
and because Donald Trump lives either in fear of Russia or in service to Russia, or both,
I consider this kind of talk nigh unto treason. You are a treasonous person.
Donald Trump continues to do absolutely nothing in response to the Russian attacks.
You would have him launch bombers to go attack the Soviet Russian cities, which I still consider Soviet.
The White House issued a press release falsely claiming
There was nothing false in the claims. This is exactly what the FBI reported.
that the indictment indicates that there was no collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia.
Yes, the FBI says that no one was colluded. Nobody worked with the Soviet Union, or Russia in this case. No one worked with them. They were contacted, but nobody worked with them.
And that the outcome of the election was not changed or affected.
So here we have the FBI assistant director, who is essentially in charge at this point, saying in his own words that there was no collusion, no one worked with Russia, and that all parties are innocent. And I look at this as the FBI covering their butt, because they're kind of saying, King's X, we didn't hurt anything, we didn't affect any elections, the Russians didn't affect the elections, it's all good, everybody relax, there's nothing to see here, everybody go away. Because there needs to be an investigation into the FBI, what they knew, when they knew it, the false dossier, how it was used to spy on the Trump campaign, and then even after President Trump took office, he was surveilled, and that needs to be investigated. But this seems to be the FBI saying, oh no, there's nothing to see here, just keep on walking.
The indictment charges 13 Russian nationals and 3 Russian companies for committing federal crimes while seeking to interfere in the United States political system, including the 2016 presidential election. Now, there is no allegation in this indictment that any American was a knowing participant in this illegal activity. There is no allegation in the indictment that the charged conduct altered the outcome of the 2016 election.
So there you have it, no collusion. And even though the Russians had a little group of people with some money buying Facebook and YouTube ads, trying to pit us against each other, it didn't have any effect on the outcome of the election. And no one is to blame. No one knowingly helped them. There is no collusion, because, of course, collusion is you going to them and seeking their help and working with them in tandem to change the election. Never happened.
The press release includes a quoted statement by the president, which was obviously written for the president by staff.
Isn't this why you have staff, to write such things?
And in that staff written quote attributed to the president, it condemns the attacks, not the attacks by Russia.
You know, this isn't about the attacks by the Russians, the so-called attacks. All this is about is you trying to remove a duly elected president So that's the only attacks that really matter, the attacks by the press. And so, of course, he has to deal with it. He has to address it. And are you feeling hurt? Are you getting a little butt hurt here? Are you getting defensive about it?
The president wouldn't dare say something about the attacks by Russia.
This guy is from Queens. He's not afraid of anything. If there was something to address, he would address it.
The president's written statement says it's time we stop the outlandish partisan attacks. The president of the United States could not bring himself to say it's time we stop the outlandish Russian attacks on our democracy.
Hey, Larry, why don't we just make you president? You seem to know how to do it all. You evidently think you can run it. So why don't you just jump up there and say, let me run it?
Why is Donald Trump, who has always been so concerned with appearing to be the strong man, so willing to play the role of the helpless, weak little boy who is dominated and controlled by Vladimir Putin?
What are you talking about? Are you some sort of shithead idiot?
Putin. Why hasn't Donald Trump thought up a derogatory nickname for Vladimir Putin?
You don't make up derogatory nicknames for people who are your equals. You make up derogatory nicknames for people who are below you and beneath you. That's how it works.
Why does Vladimir Putin have a hold on Donald Trump?
Vladimir Putin does not have a hold on Donald Trump. That is something you're trying to create. That's your agenda. That's something you're trying to project. There is no hold on Donald Trump by anybody.
The president said nothing today about taking appropriate measures in response to what was revealed about Russia in that indictment.
We're all adults here. We all understand what's going on. What are you going to do? Say, stop it? Or do like Obama and say, I'm making a red line here. Better watch out.
The president said nothing about carrying out the sanctions against Russia that Congress authorized because of its interference in our election.
Russia did not interfere in our election. The FBI, as you heard Rod Rosenstein say out of his own mouth earlier in this video, had no effect on our election whatsoever.
Any other president would have called for additional measures today against Russia.
And you know this because you think you should be president, Larry? Is that what's going on here?
But what if Russia owns the president of the United States?
Okay, you've reached the point of total conjecture here. Not only that, but I would consider this slander. And I've reached the point that I think you should be sued because you're making personal attacks that have no basis in fact.
What if Donald Trump has been compromised to the point where he lives in fear of Russia?
Pure bullcrap.
Lives in fear of Vladimir Putin, lives in fear of what Vladimir Putin might reveal about him and his history.
What is there to know about Donald Trump? He's a public person. He's come on TV. He's been on Howard Stern. He's been on Oprah Winfrey. He's always been out there. He's always been in the public. So what is there to know? What has he hidden? Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Donald Trump brags about being smart, about how to handle himself in Moscow, and that's why he would never do anything with prostitutes in a Russian hotel.
You see, this crosses a line. You definitely should be sued because you're propagating something you know is a lie.
But this indictment shows that the Russians are willing to send people to the United States to do what they have to do. What if Vladimir Putin didn't just have Donald Trump under surveillance in Moscow? What if Vladimir Putin had Donald Trump under surveillance in New York City and elsewhere?
So what? And all of these claims that he's been having sex with beautiful women, you know, porn stars, Playboy bunnies, it's going to give me high five disease. My right hand is going to look like Mickey Mouse's hand from high fiving him over and over and over because he's the man.
For years. What if Vladimir Putin knew everything about Donald Trump and Stormy Daniels before that became public? What if Vladimir Putin knew everything about Donald Trump and every Playboy playmate who Donald Trump has had affairs with, including Karen McDougal, who was revealed today, whose relationship was revealed today, and Ronan Farrow's report in The New Yorker?
You see, this is where jackasses like you really screw up because we knew this when we elected him. When he said, you know, grab him by the vagina, well, yeah, That's what you can do when you're rich and famous. Women throw themselves at you. And in France, you're expected to have a mistress. Remember when Bill Clinton was getting a BJ in the White House? Well, the French were like, hey, patting him on the back, you're our dude, you're just like us. You're a real Frenchman. Well, I'm sure the French are really loving, President Trump right now. Macron had to be right beside him on that G8 conference. It was funny.
What if Vladimir Putin knows more about Donald Trump than Ronan Farrow or anyone else could find out about Donald Trump?
None of this matters. We knew all of this when we elected Donald Trump. The Christians knew all this when they elected Donald Trump. He has a checkered past. He hasn't always been the best, most loyal guy to his wives and girlfriends over the years. But he's a conservative. He's pro-life. He is worlds better than Hillary Clinton ever would have been. So it doesn't matter. You're just pissing in the wind. You're just stirring the pot and stirring the pot. It doesn't matter. And not only that, the American people see it, we understand it, we know it, and that's why you're going to get slaughtered in November of this year in the midterm elections. It's over. You might as well just give it up. So, this has been Bonnie Doon, and thank you for listening and watching, and please like and share and subscribe.